Tuesday, 16th of February 2016, North Tyneside Council Chambers. Concerning the land of former 7 to 13 Park Terrace, Whitley Bay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this morning's planning committee. First of all, can I apologise for the temperature? It's because North Tyneside have now started breeding penguins and we keep them in here. Seriously, our central heating is bust and we must apologise for this. As far as points of note are concerned, the fire escapes, or if there's a fire in a corner, and I will use double doors both ways. Toilets are adjacent to the lifts. If people could put their mobile phones onto silent, because we don't want them going off, Councillor Graham. And the other issue which I mentioned, the heating, yes. Right, so we move on, and apologies for absence. Any apologies for absence?
I've received apologies for Councillor O'Shea, Chair.
Substitutes?
Councillor Johnson for Councillor O'Shea, Chair.
Right. Can I refer people to the minutes? Move the minutes of the last planning committee? Oh, sorry, I forgot the declarations of interest. See, I left the notes in the house, it was so cold. Any declarations of interest?
Chair, I would like to declare that I know a resident who lives at Renaissance Point who happens to be a colleague, a work colleague of mine.
Right.
It does not prejudice me in any way.
Just stick it down on the little form. Right. Thanks very much for that. Can we move to the minutes? Can I move the minutes of the last meeting? Can I have a seconder? Those in favour? Approved? Yes. And then, can I mention the principles of determined planning applications, which I tell you about every time we come to the planning committee, and I've no doubt you've all read. And that moves us on to 5.1, which is on page 27, the Chang building in Killingworth. Yes, Councillor.
Just to help, now that I've seen the plan, the revised plan, and the proposal for later delivery times, I would move acceptance. And I understand where the plan is and also the sound. So rather than go through it, I'm happy to go straight to the vote.
As you can see, the recommendation is to refuse this application, and if the committee are minded, having read the report and seen the reasons for refusal, is there anyone on the committee who actually wants us to go in another direction? listen to the reports and so on and so forth? Or do we want to move to follow the officer's recommendations?
Can I move that we follow the officer's recommendations, Chair?
The planning officer will give us a short update before, and then we'll go to, so we'll go from there.
Thank you, Chair. I have set out in the report that the recommendation to the committee was that it should indicate that it was minded to refuse the application, but the decision was no longer ours because an appeal against its non-determination had already been lodged. I've had some advice from the planning inspector as of yesterday, and they have not yet validated the appeal. It was submitted before Christmas, but they have something of a backlog. So they have advised that, legally speaking, because the appeal is not yet valid, that the local planning authority still has jurisdiction to make a decision on the application. So my advised recommendation would be that we actually resolve to refuse planning permission. In the scheme of things, an appeal will still follow, and the issues will be the same, whether it be a non-determination or a refusal appeal, and they will basically give the appellant the choice of either type of appeal when they reach the stage of validating it. So the recommendation says minded to refuse, but my advice is that we actually refuse and then deal with the appeal for the reasons set out in the report.
Are you still happy to support my recommendation, Councillor Law?
Yes, Chair. I'd like to see what I like about this proposal to begin with. And that's the rear aspect from Dome-Whitley Bay, but that's all. And I think that the officer's summary as to why this should be refused.
Then can we move to the vote that on refusal? It's been seconded. Those in favour of following the recommendation, please show.
14, Chair.
So majority decision that the application is refused. That moves us on to the 5.3, page 97, the land at the former 7 to 13 Park Terrace, Whitley Bay, and over to the planning officers.
Chair, there's a number of papers that were arrived this morning there. I'm not sure they're relevant, but I haven't read them yet.
In that case, would you like 5 minutes to read the papers?
Yeah.
Right, fair enough, 5 minutes to read the papers.
Who put this report together, because there's no name on it. Could have been done by Mickey Mouse as far as I'm concerned. Nobody's saying who did it.
Which report we
Already now, that like 5.3, there's no name on the box.
They are copies of the objections.
I know, but
I should have told about this.
surely there should have been a name on the box. Well, there'd be a group against it or whatever. There's nobody taking claim for it.
Well, courtesy would, I would agree with you, courtesy would say that a name should be on it, but
yes,
unfortunately there's not. And it has been submitted to be read. So, I mean, we do have a speaker on this particular one, so it may be one of the questions we may want to ask the speaker. Is everyone finished? Yes, sure. Right, then, can the officers do the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is an application for the erection of a hotel with associated restaurant, bar, landscaping, car parking and creation of means of access. The main issues for members to consider are whether the principle of the hotel and the restaurant and the bar is acceptable on the site, the impact of the proposal upon the character and appearance of the surrounding area, including the character and setting of listed buildings, the impact upon neighbours' living conditions with particular regards to outlook and privacy, and whether sufficient car parking and access would be provided. In terms of the application site, you can see on the screen, the application site is outlined in red. It's immediately to the east of the Grade 2 Spanish City Dome. The site has been partially grassed, but still retains some access roads and is considered to be a brownfield site. It's located in a prominent position in the seafront of Whitley Bay town centre. The site is currently vacant and consists of, and to the southwest is the Grade 2 Empress Ballroom, Grade 2 listed, which is occupied by Carlton Bingo. That's a large red brick building, you can see it down here, with a grey pitched roof. To the east, over here is a service level car park, and to the north of the site is the new pedestrianised area which sits in front of the Spanish City Dome. Moving to the issue, first of all, of principle, the National Planning Policy Framework states there's a presumption in favour of sustainable development. For decision taking, this means approving development proposals that accord with the development plan without delay. In the report on page 99, I set out the relevant policies. Paragraph 7.10, the Council's Regeneration Manager has commented that he supports the proposal. Specifically states that the proposal is a welcome sign that the private sector is willing to invest in Whitley Bay. This scheme will create a 68-bed hotel and a new restaurant on this vacant site. It will provide 69 new full and part-time jobs in the area and will complement the recently agreed proposals to bring the adjacent listed Spanish City Dome back into use for leisure purposes. As I said earlier, the proposal would be for a hotel and restaurant with associated bar. It would regenerate this underused and derelict brownfield site within Whitley Bay town centre. It would further add to its tourism and leisure offer and would help support sustainable economic growth of Whitley Bay. The proposal, therefore, would accord with the advice in MPPF and policies LE2, LE21 brackets 4, and policy LE3 of the UEP. Turning to other matters now, in terms of flooding, the applicant submitted a flood risk assessment, which concludes that the site is in flood zone 1, which is the lowest risk. Surface water from developments proposed to be restricted to a nominal flow in accordance with the Northumbrian Water's requirements. The applicant has investigated sustainable drainage techniques, however, the underlying soil is heavy clay and therefore soakways are not appropriate in this instance. It is proposed to discharge surface water to existing adopted sewers. Northumbrian Water have been consulted. There is no objections subject to conditions. The local lead flood authority have also been consulted and they raised no objections. The site is at low risk of flooding and the proposal would accord with the advice in both the National Planning Policy Framework and National Planning Practice Guidance in this respect. In terms of archaeology, the Tyne Weir Archaeology Officer has been consulted and states that she has no comments to make. In terms of biodiversity, the Council's Biodiversity Officer has been consulted and she also does not raise any objections. The site is brownfield and not of high environmental value. The proposal seeks to introduce new planting of marine grasses to the seaside elevation, shown on the site plan here, towards the front along here next to the hotel. This would be a net gain to biodiversity as it would provide additional planting. This planting would visually soften the appearance of the new hotel and would also be appropriate to its seaside location. It's officer advice, therefore, that the proposal would accord with the advice in NPPF in policies E12.6 and E14 of the UDP. In terms of land stability and contamination, there are records of historic coal mining works under the site. The Coal Authority has been consulted, and members will note from the addendum circulated last week, the Coal Authority have now withdrawn their objection and raised no objections subject to conditions. Moving on now to character and appearance. The application site is located within the setting of a number of designated heritage assets, in particular the Dome, which is Grade 2 listed. Now, I'd just like to show you some of the artist's impression to give you an idea of what the hotel and the restaurant would look like sitting next to the Dome in Spanish City. There you can see that would be the hotel wrapping around, and the domes are at this side, and there's a transition between the both of them. And there's a view from the far end, looking at the restaurant, hotels around here, and obviously the domes sits behind there. In terms of the restaurant, it will include large windows, as you can see from here, which will enliven its front and also the rear. Its main entrance would be articulated by projecting copper-clad panels, which is this area here. And the restaurant will complement the hotel in terms of bulk, mass and scale. The proposed hotel, I'll go back to the proposed hotel will be modern and contemporary in terms of its design. It will use large areas of glazing and some render in order to give it some vertical emphasis and also to add visual interest. The simple contemporary design would not compete visually with Spanish City, and the scale and massing would not compete with the primacy of the eastern wing of the Dome. Due to the position of this site, the development would not block the key views of the Dome from the north. The development will also restore active frontage along the promenade and the new area of ground improvements that have already taken place. It will regenerate an area of vacant and derelict land, reinstating the logical pattern of development and filling in what is an obvious gap site. The Town and Weir Historic Buildings Officer has been consulted and indeed involved throughout this project, and he says that the Spanish City Dome should remain as the only white rendered building. The distinction should be made with new buildings that they should complement and not copy the listed building. The general character of this part of Whitley Bay is made up of houses built from red brick. The applicant has submitted a heritage impact assessment, and this concludes that the proposals will have a strongly positive effect on the setting of Spanish City, and will make a modest positive contribution to the setting of the War Memorial. The development will have a neutral effect on the setting of the remaining identified heritage assets. In conclusion, it's considered that the proposed design of the hotel and restaurant are acceptable. The materials would draw upon the surroundings, which are mainly red brick, and would complement rather than copy the listed building. It would improve the character and appearance of the site and the surrounding area. It would not adversely affect the character or setting of the surrounding listed buildings. It's therefore officer advice that the proposal would accord with the advice in NPPF and policies LE2 and policy E17.4 of the UDP. Moving on to impact upon neighbours now. The neighbours most likely to be directly affected by the proposals are those of Carlton Bingo, who occupy the Empress Ballroom immediately to the south of the proposed hotel. For them, it's considered that the proposal would not have an adverse impact. The entrance to the Empress Ballroom is to the south-eastern corner and would be approximately 24 metres from the rear of the hotel, which is considered to be an acceptable separation. The closest residential house is approximately 100 metres away from the proposed hotel. The Manager of Environmental Health has been consulted and states she has no objection in principle to the development subject to conditions. Moving on to car parking and access now. The Highways Network Manager considers that the proposed uses that are proposed here are comparable with those that have previously been approved in terms of traffic generation, and no further works are required. The proposal therefore would not result in a residual cumulative impact that would be severe, and therefore it's officer advice that the proposal accords with the advice in MPPF policies T6, T8, T9, T11 and LD 12. Therefore, in conclusion, the proposal seeks permission to build a new hotel and restaurant. The site is prominent, being on the seafront. It's currently vacant and derelict and does nothing to enhance the character and appearance of the surrounding area. The site is also within the Bay Town Centre. It's undesirable that such sites should remain vacant for protracted periods of time. The proposal would further add to the tourism offer in Whitley Bay by providing a new hotel and restaurant, providing facilities for tourists and also jobs both during and after construction. The proposal has been carefully designed and would appear modern, contemporary in appearance. It seeks to pick up the red brick that's prevalent in nearby terraced residential streets. Render would be used in part in order to visually break up the proposal and add further interest. The proposed hotel and restaurant would not visually compete with the primacy of the Dome. The proposal would also not adversely affect residential occupiers. Highway and traffic impacts would not be severe. In conclusion, therefore, it's recommended that this application should be granted planning permission subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I said before, we do have the speaker, Mrs. Pamela Hood, representing A New Beginning. Would you like to come down and have the hot seat? You have 5 minutes to put forward your objections, and I will tell you about a minute beforehand so as you know when you'll be finished. Right? So over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Firstly, may I apologise to councillors for not having a name on the comments that we provided this morning, but they are all on your, they are purely and simply a copy of all the comments that you've received on your own website. So that is where that copy has come from. Councillors, firstly, we would ask you to approach this matter impartially, without respect to party political affiliations, difficult though that may be. Secondly,
Can I just stop you there? The planning committee is not a political committee. It is totally impartial. Councillors do have to take their political hats off in this committee. Political decisions are not made in this committee.
thank you for that. Secondly, many of Whitley Bay residents, in particular the proprietors of hotels, guest houses and B&Bs, will feel that the provision of additional overnight accommodation in a town which is still largely devoid of tourist attractions puts the cart before the horse. However, though sympathising with this point of view, we agree that even the proposed topsy-turvy approach is preferable to leaving our prime seafront location looking like a bomb site. Thirdly, we are surprised that the council rejected the architect's initial design, which is picture 1 that we provided them, which is the original design. Though not ideal, is definitely preferable to the building currently on offer, which is shown in picture 2. This rejection of the more appropriate design has resulted in a considerable waste of time and money, both of which are at a premium. Fourthly, the New Beginning group are not alone in disliking the design of the proposed building. We refer you to the comments which appear online and which you should have before you. Note that these are in addition to the many vocal and handwritten objections received at last September's public event. Crucially, The proposed design disregards a number of requirements in the National Planning Policy Framework, nor does it respect Policy DM 6.1 of the Draft Local Plan or Policy E17/4 of the Local Development Plan. We refer you to the report of a qualified town planner which examines these lapses in detail. You should have a copy of his analysis before you this morning. The New Beginning Group are particularly concerned that the historic building officer ignores the local characteristics and distinctiveness of Whitley Bay, which are its proximity to the sea and its traditional reputation as a place where people come to have fun and enjoy themselves. The neighbouring presence of red brick terrace housing is standard to all late Victorian towns throughout the country. We do not understand why this far from unique feature has been chosen to dominate a building required by the NPPF to, and I quote, make a positive contribution to local character and distinctiveness. Residents want to see a building which echoes and supports the visual wow factor of the Dome and which exudes a holiday fun time atmosphere, inviting people to come and forget everyday worries and enjoy themselves by the sea. Though we ourselves like the updated Art Deco approach of the Premier Inn at Exmouth, which is picture 3 shown for you there, we would also be happy with a more strikingly modern building as long as it complemented the Dome. The design proposed is not modern, it is rather passé 1980s, nor does it do anything to enhance our Grade 2 listed building. You should have a picture of all 3 designs for your perusal, and we ask the committee to reject the proposed design on the grounds that I've just explained. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Do any members have questions? Councillor Allen?
I was just, obviously you're not against the concept of this type of hotel going on that site. It's just the brickwork and on the external site.
Yes, you're quite right. It is purely the design. We're not against the actual hotel being put there.
Can I ask, I don't know if you can recall, the Waves swimming pool was originally presented as a clad structure similar to the Wall's End and Kilworth swimming pool. But there was a big uproar about it, and it came to planning and was refused, and it had to go to a brick facade. And I'm looking at the kind of the concept of sort of at the north end, and then here and we're kind of saying the opposite. But I just wanted to understand what your views were on that.
Our views are simply that it is not where the Waves is. It is actually next to the listed building in the Dome, which is actually white. And to have the brick building in the design that it is, looks more in fitting for, say, a shopping centre, but not for sea frontage.
Right, so you just think everything around the Dome should be kind of the same?
It should be complementing the Dome, yes.
Or depot in the style?
Yeah. So if you can see the one in Exeter, obviously doesn't have to be exactly like that, but the overall, look of it would complement its next door neighbour, basically.
What about the long-term sustainability of the colour? What is there? Do you foresee any kind of maintenance issues for that type of?
Well, if the dome is covered in the correct type of paint, sir, it should have no problem. There is a certain type of paint that can be used, which lasts a lot longer than the one that the council obviously put on.
Sorry, I'm not talking about the dome. I'm talking about the hotel.
Well, it would be similar. There is certainly paint that lasts a long time that will remain white.
It's not. I understand. It's not a council hotel. It's a private developer. I just want to. Okay.
Anyone else? just got one question, and that is, if the building was, as you were suggesting, of a white nature, do you not think there's a chance that it might take away some of the iconic value of the dome itself?
Personally, we don't think so.
Anyone else got any questions? No? Then thank you very much. Could I ask Steve McGee, of the architect, please? As I said before, you have 5 minutes, and I'll remind you a minute before so that you can sum up.
Chair, elected members, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Steve McGee. I'm the principal of LMA Architects, who are the designers of the hotel and restaurants in the city. The application in front of you today for approval is the result of over a year of design work, discussions and engagement with the planning department, historic building officer and the local community. There have been over 7 months of extensive pre-application discussions with the planners, their design advisors, and as I said, the Council's own historic buildings officer. These discussions started in March and continued up to the submission of the planning application in late October. In addition, there was a public consultation event held in Spanish City on the 10th of September prior to the submission of the application. Comments from the public were sought, feedback reviewed, discussed and design revised in conjunction with the planners and the historic building officer. Therefore, the application that you see is the product of those months of consultation, discussion, review and I have to say several design iterations. The application you're considering has the support of the planning department, the historic buildings officer, as detailed in the report in front of you. Whilst I appreciate the majority of the objections received relate to the design of the building, I would refer the elected members to the design discussion and design iterations that previously taken place as I've outlined. The historic buildings officer was very much in the forefront of these discussions in respect to the design of the building in relation to the setting and the proximity of the listed building. The proposals presented are a bespoke design solution specifically produced for this site and are not an off-the-shelf standard design. The building has been designed to follow the historic streetscape found at Whitley Bay, and whilst the design aesthetic is a contemporary style, the elevations have historical references from Spanish City and the wider local context. The materials have been chosen to reflect the building surroundings and are therefore specific to the surrounding areas. I also appreciate that many of the comments received were in relation to the use of red brick in lieu of render, and I wish to raise this point specifically. The design change from render to brick was led by the historic buildings officer, as you've already heard. He was very insistent that the proposed hotel and restaurant should not be a white render to match Spanish City, but should be a contrasting material to allow the building to stand out. In addition, concern was raised by the council officials regarding the durability of the render and its long-term suitability in such an exposed environment. This development is poised and ready to start, subject to a decision today. It represents a capital investment into Whitley Bay of £5 million by Robertson's development. Premier Inn are committed to a lease that will see a revenue investment to Whitley Bay in excess of over £15 million over the next 25 years. The hotel and restaurant could be operational by the end of this year and will bring visitors and revenue to the town, which local businesses and the wider community will benefit. Robertson's, being a development contractor, will commit to engaging with the local community and employment market and provide jobs as well as a capital investment. This will take the form of subcontractor opportunities, full-time employment and apprenticeships. In addition, as we've already heard, Premier Inn will create 69 full and part-time jobs. Robertson's will also engage with the local community through the construction period. In the past, this has taken the form of engagement with local schools, providing education and advice on construction as career paths for pupils.
You have 1 minute left.
In summary, I refer to elected members the recommendations of the planning department, the advice of the historic buildings officer, that the application has their support and is recommended for approval. I therefore request that the elected members move to support the recommendation and approve the application.
Does any members have any questions? Councillor Green?
Yes, thank you. The footprint of the design that you have, is there any links at all with the buildings that are associated with the Spanish city site? Or is it a totally standalone hotel and restaurant?
It's a totally standalone building.
And you've got the area on the right hand side, I think it is the restaurant, and this is the hotel on the right hand side.
Yeah,
Is that how you're doing it?
That's correct, yes.
And will the restaurant be open for the public to come to, because there's some queries in here?
No, absolutely. It's not solely to serve the hotel, it's there to serve the public as well.
Right. And if people wanted secure overnight parking, is there secure overnight parking for people on that side?
There is a parking area
At the side, but
to the side.
It's not undercover secure?
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you.
I see your hand up, Councillor.
Yeah, must have seen it before. Can I ask, originally, just so I understand, originally you proposed a card building,
A rental building.
a render, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was quite a part,
Yeah.
because from a building perspective, it's probably cheaper to do than putting brickwork.
The render was proposed initially because we as designers thought that was the best solution to it, and it was only through discussions with the historic building officer that changed.
Right. And that's the only reason that the vault is through the guidance.
Absolutely, there's been a lot of discussion over this one over the period of those 7 months.
Is there examples where this officer is sort of led the design, particularly against adjacent buildings to listed buildings? Is it kind of a normal?
Part of the application process is that, yes. Particularly historic buildings officers. You know, they're very protective of because of the position of historic buildings and how buildings relate to that.
And obviously the office, historic office, the advice is kind of national rather than local. It's not just one person in the North East office, it's kind of the national policy.
That's correct, yes.
And therefore they're being consistent in their approach to this.
I would assume yes, that's obviously wrong.
Okay, that's all I think.
Councillor Green?
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered at the consultation event that you had in September,
Yeah.
could you demonstrate how you took residents' views into account when you redid the design as well?
Okay. Well, part of the process was we obviously exhibited what we had at that point to the residents of the wider community. We interacted with them, we saw the feedback there, and we filled out forms. What we did was we took that form, we took all that information, we analysed it, and we took the findings back to the planning department and the historic buildings officer, and we had a bit of discussion around that period. But you will appreciate that the biggest issue was the fact that the building wasn't white. I mean, I think the principles never, there was not an issue. It's down exactly to that one issue, I would suggest. And again, that was discussed. There were some design tweaks beyond that point, but the main issue of render, obviously, as you can see from the proposal before you, it was decided that red brick was still preferred before storage buildings.
Anyone else? No? Thank you very much. Some questions to officers? Councillor Lilly?
Thank you, Chair. I've just asked how many car parking spaces there are on this site.
There's 4 disabled spaces on the site.
Sorry?
4 disabled spaces controlled by the applicant.
And how many car parking spaces are there in total?
4 disabled spaces.
So that's all?
Yeah.
For the 68 beds?
Yes. But there's other car parks in the area that they can use.
And where it is, I mean, how many car parking spaces are there then around the Dome?
The new car park which got permission a couple of years ago, it's got 132 spaces.
So 132 spaces, so there's 68 beds, so that's 60, so the UV pieces are going to be a car parking space for each bed, is that correct?
Yeah, that's the maximum max.
And then 69 employees, so I assume a proportion of those will be working each time, so that's could be up to 100 say car parking spaces taken by this hotel. So where are the bingo people going to park? And where are the visitors to the Dome area going to park?
I mean, there's various car parks in the area which you probably need, like Playhouse, Bournemouth Gardens, and the new car park that's there. The applicant's also done a study to show the maximum demand of their site is likely to be 70 spaces at 8:15 on an evening. And it's just a case of how the hotel advise their guests and how the parking's managed in the Whitley Bay area as a whole.
So there's a possibility that there could be overspoken parking in the streets.
There's always potential for that to happen if on a busy summer's evening when the rest of the Whitley Bay is all the activities will have going on. Again, it's how that's managed. If it becomes a problem, the parking team will look at that and extend restrictions and things like that.
Can you just tell me how many, you're saying there's only 4 disabled spaces for the whole thing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So you've got the employees in the hotel, which is 69. So many of those will have cars, right? And then you're saying to take them to other places such as the Playhouse. So even on Sunday the Playhouse sometimes has things on. And the Playhouse is nearly always full, the car park. So I don't know where you're going to put people there, right? And there's not much room else. And also you haven't said about the restaurant. Is the restaurant staff is part of those 69, those 68 people, did you say? Are they part of the restaurant as well?
As part of the LD 12 maximum standards, if this was a standalone restaurant in a hotel in the middle of nowhere, you'd expect 108 spaces and 9 disabled spaces. What provides 4 disabled spaces. However, there are other car parks in the area, such as the London Play 2 spaces adjacent to the site, the Playhouse, Bournemouth Gardens, and then there's also play display parking in the surrounding streets as well.
Are you not there? Sorry, Chair.
Do you want to come back in?
We just keep getting told that car parking spaces at Bournemouth Gardens. Bournemouth Gardens is a hike and a half away from here. So how do you expect people to park there rather than park here? They're going to put a park on this car park. So therefore, this hotel could result in virtually full use of the car park all the time. Surely.
I mean, it's customer choice if the car park's regularly full. Obviously, in the minute it's quite new, it hasn't been established yet. It'll not be as an attractive place for people to pay to stay overnight or pay to use the restaurant. I think generally what I'm saying is that there is other car parks in the area, from the town centre down to the Playhouse, down to the coast. And it's about how people utilise these. Again, with anything like this, it's a new use. And it'll be monitored. But what I would also say is that the outline application 2012 has accepted this use in principle. So this is a detailed design of part of something that's already got an outline permission.
Councillor Allen?
I just want to explore how influential is the historic buildings officer in relation to engagement with the planner? How do we view them? Are they like a statutory instrument? Sport England is a statutory objection in because we've seen an outline of a football pitch from Google Earth. You understand what I'm saying? I just wonder what kind of influence historic buildings officers have.
Well, they're not a statutory consultant in the same way that Sport England would be, for example. but clearly their remit is to look after really look after listed buildings and ensure that development both on listed buildings and adjacent listed buildings is sympathetic. And what they do bring is they bring a wealth of knowledge and experience through dealing with listed buildings. This particular historic buildings officer works across town and weir, and therefore he's used to working on listed buildings such as the Spanish City. Also works on other listed buildings in the area, some of which are grade 1, for example. So I wouldn't say we're not sort of slaves to his advice, but we obviously take his opinion and what he says, because he brings a whole lot of experience to it, very carefully. And I think that's what we've done in this particular instance. And the issue in terms of the red brick and the render, yes, he felt that actually the Spanish City should be the only white rendered building, which stands separately. And if you render a building next to it in some way, it detracts from it rather than complements it. And he drew the distinction to the residential streets. He said, look, that's essentially the surrounding vernacular, and it should draw from that. But ultimately, it's a matter for members to decide in terms of that advice. But I mean, yes, we do take his advice because he does bring a huge degree of knowledge to us, and as I say, generally we're grateful for that advice. But we are of our own minds, same as the planning committee are, and ultimately we can either agree or disagree. In this particular instance, my views, I agree with him, and I think he's right in terms of, if you go back as well to the North East Trust Civic Conservation Plan, again, that also points to the primacy of the Dome and ensuring that the Dome remains that focal point. And again, it's addressing that why. So by having it as the only white rendered building, then it remains prominent and it remains special and it stands out.
Can I ask another one on car parking? Is there any facility for coaches? Because I can visualise that this might attract weekend coach parties who would then go to the playhouse or a Ken Dodd event or something, or whatever. But have we got any facilities for coaches going into the
No, there's not as part of the application. I mean, I think probably everyone's aware there is a coach park at the Leeds car park, where you expect the coach park to be dropped off at the playhouse or the hotel or wherever, and then the driver will park along at the other car park.
Okay, so is there like a turn-in circle for the coaches? That's really what I...
No, because not within the site. There's a turn circle proposed for a refuse vehicle service vehicle, but not a coach.
So how do coaches drop off?
There's no facilities within the site. It would just be how we would drop off for anything in Whitley Bay. You know, I'm really not sure what happens at the moment for the other uses.
Anyone else? Councillor Lott?
Thank you, Chair. Can we be told how many car parking spaces there are within, shall we say, 250 yards of this proposed development?
Yeah, probably the car parks I mentioned before. Playhouse has 80 spaces, Bournemouth Gardens, and the links is 212 spaces. And Park Road, which is near the school, has got 34 lay-by type spaces.
Is that the library side, the old library side?
Yeah. No, I think that's probably the road itself. There's some lay-by type.
300 and odd car parking spaces, plus the library. Thank you. My second question is on something quite different. A number of the objections referred to the perceived threat that this development would have on other hotel and bed and breakfast operators. Am I right in recalling that competition is not a matter that we can take into account with regards to considering a planning application?
Yes, Councillor, you're right. Competition is a material planning consideration.
Thank you, Chair.
Anyone else? Any questions? Yes, no. And comments. And I think I might start off here, which I don't normally do. I think the issues of parking, right? Bearing in mind that we keep getting told about the tourism aspect with Whitley Bay. If everybody turned up on a summer's day, well, we'd have parking chaos. So I think parking in one sense, though it's an issue, is down the list as far as our personal concern. I think the main issue around the building itself seems to be the red brick, and that's the advice from the historic buildings officer. But I think Councillor Allen actually touched on a point that this is actually a more expensive building than what was originally planned. I also think that it's probably a building that will last a lot longer, because render with salt air comes adrift, and it's not just the paint on the dome, it's the actual render around the dome that causes the issues. And I also think that I agree with the historic buildings officer that the iconic dome itself would be taken out of existence in one sense if you put a big white building next to it, or two white buildings. So I'll begin with the first thing, and now over to the committee. Councillor Hall.
Yes, Chair. As you've stated there, the star of the site is the dome, and the fact that it is visible from the north so spectacularly. I think a white rendered building next to that dome would totally spoil the shape and the outline of that. And I really think that the decision to not have a white rendered building there is the correct one.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at this from a completely objective planning point of view, looking through the main issues as identified by the officer on page 99. The impact on principal development is clear presumption in favour of sustainable development, paragraph 18 and 19 of the MPPF, with added weight when it's a derelict site. Secondly, the heritage of the area. The heritage's positive effect on the setting of the Spanish City Dome. The scale and massing would not compete with the dome, would further restore an active frontage to the promenade, where it's currently derelict, and would further regenerate derelict land. There would be no adverse impact on neighbours. It would not significantly affect residential amenity. Car parking and access conforms to standards set out in the MPPF and various LEDs, which is also pretty standard in hotels in town centre and city centre areas around the country, where the hotels themselves will not have their own car parking, but will rely on local authority and other private sector car parking around the area. It's 50 million in the local economy over 25 years and 69 full-time jobs. It's a clear step forward in regeneration of Whitley Bay to make it a thriving town has the potential to be, so I'll be voting in favour of this application.
Anyone else? No? And in that case, I'll move to the vote. The recommendation is that the application, on the agenda this morning, the application should be permitted, subject to the conditions laid out in the reports and the addendum. All those in favour, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those against? 3 against. Then the application is permitted.